I'm Kern. I've been home educating 3 of my 5 children for 9 years. They all went to school first because we didn't think about home education because nobody told us about home education. Nobody talked at that time about home education. 2 of my sons started with home education when they were 14 and 11 years old, and they both said they want to leave school. They don't want to go to the school anymore. And especially the first one had very bad experiences in school. The youngest left school 2 years later with 10. And then we were in conflict with the authorities for 5 years in Germany. We had 2 court cases and we got fined twice. And at the end of this time, we were really tired with fighting with or not fighting. It wasn't really a fight. It was just
Conflict.
Yeah, it was just a conflict. Yes, we had several really good meetings, but there were others which were not very good. We were tired of it and of this, in a way, hopeless struggle, and we left Germany for 2.5 years and lived in Britain for this time. We have won some very small or not very small victories. My 4th child, when he was 12, he wrote a letter to the school authorities by himself, and really by himself. It was a very good letter, in my opinion. That was 1 year after he left school. He complained that they do... that the pressure to our family is so much and he can't understand it, and it was his decision to leave school, and he doesn't understand why they put all this pressure on his parents. He got invited from the president of the school authorities, and it was on the higher level. It wasn't the ministry, but just the level below. And we went to this meeting with him and a friend of us, and it started not very well, the meeting, and he started crying, and the president, she said, "Oh, look at this, that's the result of home education." And I said, "No, that's because he remembers what it was like in school, and you started like school." And that opened her. And she afterwards told us she knows Summerhill and all those things, and she knows that home education is legal in some countries. And we had a very nice meeting, and at the end of the meeting, she offered him a contract. It was really a written contract that he can go on with his home education if he go to exams every year until he has his last one, the lowest of the examinations in Germany. And that was only twice. He accepted this, and we thought, okay, we are fine with this, and we can extend it for our other sons. But shortly after this happened, the president changed, and the next one was very strict, and I think he wasn't very... he didn't want that our other son did get this contract, and they said, no, there's nothing working anymore. And then the pressure got really hard. Home education wasn't the only reason why we left, because my husband and myself, we always thought, oh, we would like to go to another country, but there were always reasons why not to go to another country, and this time it was a bit like, kick now, go now. That's then you will have this experience now. And we enjoyed our time in England. It was really great. we didn't have to argue for our decision to home educate our children all the time, which we had to do in Germany. In Germany, when we told people that we are home educating, we noticed that this topic got a lot of people in a bad rage. It's as if you really touch people very, very deeply, and yeah, I think some are jealous because we think our children should live their life in their way, how they choose it, and they are jealous that they haven't had this experience. Yeah, we also enjoyed not being the only family in the area, and some of the other. At that time, when we started, we were the only family with teenagers in a very wide area. And when we left to England, there were so many other teenagers, and they could have contacts, nearly everywhere. We enjoyed being members of several home education groups, which didn't exist at that time in Germany. And we loved being at the gatherings and the events and at HASFES, the big home education gathering in summer. And this whole experience being in England and home educating over there was really a great gift for all of us. And we still have contacts over there. We moved back to Germany nearly 3 years ago because of family reasons. My father-in-law wasn't very well, and we thought, better go back. Although our youngest son was still at school age, but we didn't get any troubles anymore. And they knew that we came back because my husband is a teacher, and he was teaching again. Yeah, all our sons did one of the German exams as private candidates. Funny enough, you can take all of our exams as private candidates, although it is illegal to home educate. You don't have to be at school for taking those exams. And our youngest son, who was the only one left at home, when he took his exams, he decided to go back to England and went to college and started studying agriculture there. And he didn't have any lessons from the age of 7 or 8 because he was before he left school, he was in a private school where they didn't teach. They couldn't go on their own. So 2 years ago, I started working for Clanara School, and now I am running the German Clanara home-based education program, which is not a distance school. We just take the documentation of the families and tell them how they can home educate, how they can do it, and they can choose how they want to do it. And with those documentations, we can write reports at the end of the year. And some of those families who are still in Germany and are enrolled in Clanara School, they get some sort of unwritten permission. If they get the reports and the authorities, especially the youth welfare officers, and they know that the children are okay in the family and there's no abuse with it, then they just say it's okay to the school authorities. I'm in contact with lots of other German home educating families and with some of the organizations. Now I want to say something about the legal situation, which is not very nice at the moment, or was not very nice in the past. In Germany, the school laws are made by the federal states. Most of those state school laws would allow the possibility to educate one's children in another way. But the interpretation of these paragraphs is much stricter than it is written. School authorities and courts say that these other ways are only allowed if the child is so ill that visiting a school is not possible. Although this interpretation is supported by school authorities and most of the judges, there are still families, like Kelley, where home education is tolerated by their local authorities or even the higher ones. And what I already noticed during our own conflict with the authorities, that not all the people working for the school authorities or the social services think in the same strict way. Some of them notice how bad the situation in some schools are, and they think, okay, that could be a way for especially this child. If families have someone like this as a contact person, then there could be a way of acceptance. But the families normally have to be very, very quiet about the home education. So there are not very many families who are going into the open or whom you can see on the media, but there are families. So if the families don't find such a contact person who tolerates their home education, what happens to them, or what can happen to them? So I said we got fined. That's normally the first thing the authorities do. They give you a fine, and the fines depend on the income of the family and can be from 50 euros up to 1,000 euros. In some of the states, it can be 1,500 euros. If a family continues to home educate and is not threatened by those fines, when we have done it, we thought, okay, that's much cheaper to pay a fine of 500 or 1,000 euros per year as to pay a private school. So if a family continues to home educate and the authorities assume that they will just pay the fine, as we have done, and go on with this practice, then they can get a coercive fine, so fine in advance, I don't know how you call it. And that can be a lot more money. So 5,000 euros is common for this, and families can get this again after some weeks or some months. So it adds up, can be 10,000, 15,000 euros in a very short period of time. There are 2 federal states where not sending children to school is not only a minor breach of the law, which it is in the other states, but a criminal act. And there have been parents who have been sent to jail, but I think at the moment it's not very common to send parents to jail. Most of the cases when parents had to go to jail, home education is not the main reason. They are sent to jail because they didn't pay their fines, because they thought, what I am doing is the right thing, and I don't know why should I pay the fine. Another threat is to take away child custody. In 2007, there was a major change in the law. Since then, not sending your children to school is in itself regarded as a reason to take away the custody. If children are over 16 and refuse to go to school anymore, it also can happen that they are sent to a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist is the word which psychiatrist. Have problems with psychiatric clinic. There's so those threats are really hard, and there are really many families who say, oh, I can't stand up with this, I can't cope with this, and they leave the country. And I'm always happy if I find a family who says, no, I will at least try it. We have, I think, it with the media is that has changed. When we started home education, there was nothing in the media, or sometimes once or twice a year it was something about Christian families. It was like nobody talked about it at all. But I think 5 years or 7 years ago, it started. This topic started to turn up in the media more often. The first publications tended to be negative or very negative, but this has changed. During the last 2 or 3 years, there were some good articles in magazines and newspapers, and some very good documentations in TV. And we noticed that it's changing the reactions of other people when we tell them what we are doing. So the mind of the normal people is changing. Not all of them, but really a lot of them. So, in general, the situation has gotten worse during the last 2 or 3 years for the families. So, although the media things were much better, the situations with the authorities has gotten worse. And I have talked to most of the leading people of the associations during the last 2 weeks, and they all say the same. What I notice is that the different authorities are much more connected to one another, which they haven't been 10 years ago. The school authorities, the child welfare officers, and the administration officers, they really are in contact with one another. And if you just deregister your child from Germany and say to the authorities, my son is living now in England or in France, they will come and look, or they will investigate. Not come and look is the second step, but they start investigating. And for families with small children who are not of school age or just coming into school age, it is really hard to start home education at the moment. Yeah, that's it.
I can continue. What I can add is our personal story, because Karen did a very good summary already about the legal situation. And so for us it started with our daughter, because she wanted to quit the kindergarten. It's an institution before school from 3 to 6. And she went there, and the last year she said, I want to stay at home. It's boring. It's too loud. She tried to escape over the fence in the garden. So, and we said, okay. I was pregnant with our second daughter, and I'm anyway at home. Stay with us. And there the way for me begins to see that it's. That there are much easier ways to learn than there is a person who says what you have to learn. Because she could very good deal with her schedule on the day she had a plan what to do. She planned her own projects and so on. So and then the vacations before the next school year came, and the school leader phoned us. We heard you have a child in the age to go to school, and what will happen. So she was very curious to go, and she went some weeks, and after that she said, "Okay, I saw everything. It's I can stay at home again. It's fine." And she stayed some days at home. Then we got phone calls. What happens? And my ist das die Überzeugung?
Conviction.
My conviction was I didn't want to lie at all. I didn't say she's ill or anything. She said she just doesn't want to go. And so the school made this for a while with us. But then we had a talking with the director of all the schools, Schulrat. Mm-hmm. So and they said it very clearly. So if your daughter will not come on Monday to school, the police will stay at your house. And at this time we were already connected with other families who tried to let their children at home, and we knew these horrible stories, and we knew it's not a joke. Especially it was in Bavaria. It's in the south of Germany, and they will not make a joke about this. So we said, okay, she will come, and we decided pretty soon to deregister in Germany. And then it takes more than 1 year to find a new place. We traveled around, and finally we find now a place in France, in the south of France, and we're living there for 2 years already. And what is very interesting, the little daughter now, she's 6 already now. She never was in any institution, and to see her development, it's great, because she's so clear in making decisions and what she wants and what she don't want, and because she didn't suffer this social oppression the bigger daughter already got in the kindergarten. This being conform and being laughed if you're not conform and things like this.
Sí, quería preguntar a cualquiera de las tres si la situación que habéis descrito en Alemania. Sí.
Sorry,
sí.
Again the question, please.
Sí, quería preguntar si la situación que habéis descrito en Alemania ha sido siempre así, o si podemos hablar de un empeoramiento de la situación, porque también la representante de Francia nos comentaba que la situación en Francia había empeorado. Entonces, mi pregunta era si se puede hablar de un empeoramiento de la situación en Alemania, o si hay tal vez un proceso, a lo mejor en Europa, de tipo totalitario.
But that's a very good question for Germany. It's a very good question about Germany. And I think the legal situation has gotten worse. They try, the officials, there are 16 different states, and each state has its own policy. But all of the states agree that education in the family is not illegal and not healthy and undemocratic and not wished for in the culture. And most Germans agree. Almost all Germans agree. Even if they're unhappy with the schools, they agree. They think there should be school reform, but that it's somehow impossible to educate individuals outside of institutions. They believe only in experts. They also believe that about medicine, about medical care, and they also believe that about legal care. So it is getting tighter and tighter. The fines are higher and higher. The pressure is at a younger and younger age. They want to begin making the legal age for institutional care for children at 3, beginning at 3, many states. So the pressure is getting greater and greater. And the economic pressure is getting more. It's becoming harder and harder to live on one income. So on a practical level, it's more difficult all the time to homeschool, and on a legal level, it's more difficult. At the same time, there are more and more people doing it. Because the schools are worse and worse, there's more violence. We have a lot of trouble with young people who have addiction problems to alcohol, drugs, sex, peer addiction. Our young people form packs, social groups, and they have a hard time socializing with anybody who isn't their same age. So more people are doing it. Some people have to leave. They do it for a while, and then they try with the courts, they try with social workers, maybe a year, maybe it works for a year, maybe it works for 2 years, but then they have to leave. Some people give their children back to school. They give up. They try and they try and they try, and they're too tired and they don't have any more money, and they give their children back to school. But they've won that time with their children. My children are 12, and I have twins who are 10. And my oldest daughter went to 1 year of school. The 10-year-olds have never been to school. And for every year that they grow up in the family and they experience everyday life as a natural thing, going to the grocery store, going to the library, playing with their friends in the afternoon, they have a lot of time to pursue their own interests. And we have a lot of time as a family together. Even if they had to go to school now, they would know the difference. And also, it's been 5 years for us. We've been doing this. My neighbors know the difference. In my church community, nobody in my church community thought this was a good idea. And most people still don't think it's a good idea. But everybody says, those kids are great. My mother-in-law, my brother and sisters-in-law, they all at the beginning, they said, yeah, some of them are teachers. You're going to ruin those children. They're such nice children. But my children are the only children that help caring for their grandmother. None of the other children are interested in caring for their grandmother. She's 90. She lives still at home, and we help care for her every day. So the family also, our relatives are also saying, oh, there's something about this. The children, they have the time, they're interested in their grandmother, they're interested in people of other ages. They're healthier, physically healthier than the other children around them. They're bilingual. I'm a U.S. American citizen. All of the children that I know who have one parent who comes from another country, they begin losing the second language because they spend so much time in school and so much time in same age groups that they begin losing the other language. So the officials in our county have unofficially accepted the illegal situation that my children don't go to school. Now, we do cooperate we have a small cooperation with a very sympathetic school director. And she sees, we visit the school and I give some art classes once a week for an hour. And my children come with. And they bring examples of the things they do at home, if they read or write or do experiments. We do those things with the children at school sometimes. And also we have a program over the computer where they can write in about the books they're reading. And the school director, she sees, there's nobody in her school who reads as much as my children. My older daughter last year she read more than her whole age group together in the school. But she didn't read until she was almost 10. If she had been in school, they would have said this child has a disability and she can't read and this is a problem and she must go to a special school. But now she reads in English and in German at the age level of a 15-year-old, both German and English, but she didn't read until she was almost 10. Now they say she's gifted. So, I was very lucky. My husband agreed that this is what we wanted to do with our children. The children agreed, and that's very important. It's very important that the mother and the father or whoever is involved, that they agree this is what we want for the children. Then the officials, they have a very hard time coming into your family and making a problem. Also, we've had a lot of support from other families who are home educating their children. Without this support, by internet, by telephone, sometimes we meet and do activities together. That support was also really important for us because you get really worn out. You get very tired. Some days you think, I'm going back to the United States, or let's move to France, or forget it, But then I talk to some of the other parents, and I look at my children, like Silke says. You look at your children, they're so healthy, they're so happy, they are so themselves. I think, I can't do it. I can't put them in school. And they're happy here. I'm only going to move if I have to. So we stay. 1 year after another, we stay. We've never paid fines. Some families pay very high fines. But we've been lucky. And I want to say something about the German movement. All of the officials, if they are sympathetic or not, they all say, we have to protect our pluralist society. We have to protect that our culture is a pluralist culture, and we can't allow people to pull out and just be in a parallel group society, in their own group, and not be part of the larger society. But the homeschooling movement in Germany is the most pluralistic group of people who work together on anything that I know in Germany. I have lived in Germany for 15 years. There is no religious community, there is no academic community, there is no business community that I have ever experienced that is as pluralistic as the home education community. There are people who are religious, they have a certain variety of Christian conviction. The boys and the girls in the same family don't even sit next to each other because they don't want to mix boys and girls. They're that conservative. And there are families who don't teach their children anything formally. They don't have any school books. Their children don't read till they're sometimes 10 or 11. But all of these families can more or less work together and respect each other. I come from the United States. We're a very pluralist society. And there is a lot of tolerance. And there's also a lot of intolerance. But there is a lot more tolerance in the United States for difference than there is in Germany. In Germany, there's about this much tolerance for difference. Really, this much and not more. Not on a good day. But in the homeschooling community, there's a lot of tolerance because we all love our children so much and we learn about each other. It's one of the most fruitful fields of social evolution that I've experienced in my life. And I'm 50 and I grew up in California and I lived in Central America and I lived in New York City for 5 years and worked as a teacher. I've never seen anything like this. So when people say we're trying to pull away and just be by ourselves, it's not true. We want to be with our children and we want to be in our communities, and it's a great example of functional pluralism. And a convention like this, where we've spent 2 days now, people from different countries who are active in their movements talking for hours and hours. How can we create a European association that benefits all of us? And we know that we're going to meet again, and we want to do this. This is the real European community. The community is still in it. Yeah, it's not just a European business endeavor. It's a European community, and if we can stay with this and protect each other, and help our children through exchanges in families to learn other languages in a natural way and to learn about the cultures of very different families in a natural way and not from a textbook, then we have really achieved something. Not just for our children and the children of other home education people, but it's really a model. And if you have the courage to talk like this in a very calm way with officials, you must always stay calm. You must always stay calm when you speak to officials, if you can, and know that they have no idea about this. And call experienced families who've had good experience with communicating with officials. Call them and ask for advice, and they will help you. They will always help you. I have never been in a situation where I didn't get help and encouragement and excellent advice. So it's possible. And in Germany, we're very open. The families I know, all the different kinds, we're open to exchanging children and meeting and sharing experiences. We do a lot of work on the with email and internet. We mail books to each other. We help each other with money. People who have fines, very high fines, and they can't pay them, everybody sends 50 euros and helps with the fines. These are the kinds of work that we have to do together to just move it a little bit at a time. To just move it. Just keep moving it a little bit at a time. So the situation is worse, but that's good for us because we have to work harder, and then we develop the tools and the relationships we need. And we mature, and our children mature, to have the civil courage we need. In Germany, the laws would allow us to do this. It's only the interpretation of the law that makes it impossible. And when people say, oh, your children don't go to school, is that possible? I say, no, it's not possible. It's not possible, but after 5 years, we're still doing it, so. One story I want to tell you. A friend of mine, she adopted a child recently. And the child was 5. And she was home with him for 1 year. And then she gave him to school, and she went back to work full time. He's at school till 5 o'clock at night. And she said, I asked myself, why did I adopt this child? I don't have any time for him. But I'm afraid to do that. We need the money I earn. Her husband earns 4 times what my husband earns. But she still needs to work. And she said, I'm afraid for the loss of the income, but also I could never do at home all the things that they do in school. All the things they do in school, I can't do that at home. Now, she's 2 university degrees. 2. I have 3. She says, I could never do it. I said, yeah, to do everything they do at school, that would be really hard, but I don't do that. Everything that they memorize in school and forget, we don't do it. The things you really need to get a graduation certificate in 10 years or 15 years, that's easy to do. You have 10 years or 15 years to do that. You can do that with your child. But what's really hard to do in a little room with 20 children or 25 children is to create the life that there is in the whole world in that room. Maybe 2 times a year or 4 times a year you go on a trip into the real world. Everybody together. If they want to or not. You go to the zoo, you go to the museum. It is difficult sometimes to give the children what they need to grow and mature. But it's difficult even if they're in school to give your children what they need. Every day I see the end of my ability. But it's impossible for those people in school to create real life in a real world. They can't do it. Even if they're good teachers and they love the children and they have all the money in the world, you cannot create life in that little room for children. And that's what I tell people. How do you do it? How you can't do all that? You can't teach your children chemistry and physics. I say, the schools don't do it either. And what we give them, no school could ever give them, not even in academic knowledge. No school can give them what you can give your children. And my daughter is 12. She almost never asks me a question. She picks her own books. She decides when she's going to study. She asks when she has a question. Then we look for the answer together. She's way beyond everybody else in academic skills. So, if you have any questions, you can email me. You can email any of us. You can write to us. You can ask. You can say, my child wants to learn English. Can we come to you on vacation? Can we stay at your house? Then we get to know each other, and in 2 or 3 years you send your child for a quarter of a year to live with us, and then we speak English or we speak German with them, or you just have to spend the time making the relationships. Maybe you can't teach your child chemistry, but somebody else who loves chemistry can teach your child chemistry. Or your child will discover chemistry themselves, and then they will teach you about chemistry. So that's